Sup everybody, Migz here, welcome back to the Decksmiths. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a break on Dragon Ball. No, it's not Yu-Gi-Oh, but at the moment I am currently working on it. Today I'm going to be giving you a different type of deck profile, and that's going to be on Weiss Schwarz. I know it's random, but just as a quick summary, back when the Decksmiths used to be known as Team Riding in Dark Games, on the side I did stack up on some cards for Weiss Schwarz because a friend of mine got me into it. And I got into it when they introduced Attack on Titan, and that's Volume 1. I am aware that there's a Volume 2 on Attack on Titans, and the best deck out of that whole box is basically Red Yellow Corpse, which FYI I am gonna be currently working on it, but when I have time. This was basically the first deck I made out of the Attack on Titan series, right before I jumped into a red-green corpse deck with using Mikasa and Levi. But nonetheless, this was more of a casual deck that I had, and I wanted to use my corpse deck more seriously, but I barely had time to play it, and based on how my friend was going hard on the game, he usually went out of state just to compete in the locals. I'm not down with that. I only go out of the state if I'm competing in like a regionals or like a special event, but locals, nah, I could do that in my own. Locals are supposed to be around your area. But anyway, Titans, the way they work is this old build used to have a setup in where it's kind of impenetrable. It's hard to get over. Why did I possess this deck? Because Raiden, for whatever reason, he decided to keep this deck. Long story short, when I decided to stop playing this game, I gave him my red-green corpse deck, and I gave him this deck to sell as a combo pack for like 200. The entire time, which mind you, yes, my corpse deck was sold. This entire time, he still held on to this deck. Do not know why, and this is why I actually still possess this. So, with that said and done, we're going to get to the deck profile. To some of you that don't know how the game works, basically the game mechanic is a little different. You have 5 spots on the board. The 3 on top is like your center stage, and 2 in the back, which is like your backstage. Cards in the back stages are cards that you keep on the back that don't swing, but some of those back sides go as a benefit because they can give characters in the forward stages, in the front of the stage, power boosts, and you get to trigger certain effects based on who are they in front of or who's in front of them. The numbers here are basically the levels. The way the game works also is there's a zone called clock zone. Every turn you could put a card into your clock and draw 2. However, once you go to 7, you automatically level up. It is good in hindsight, but the way you lose the game is once you hit level 4, you lose the game. They have on one side, it does carry the little mechanic of how Vanguard works in terms of how you trigger certain things. They have ways of doing extra damage. On the bottom, they have like a little soul, I believe it's called soul point. That means that they do 1 damage. Automatically, regardless, they do like 1 damage to the person. And the top corner, if it has any extra soul symbol of it, they'll do an extra damage to them. Basically, that would be how much damage they would take. Like I said, this is the level. And on the bottom is the extra cost. The way that works is also when you attack and you reveal the top card to see if you get like an extra damage, they go into an area on the side called stocks. Those are pretty much what you use to pay for an extra cost to bring out the character. As we get into it, I'll explain that more. They have abilities that work in terms of actions, continues, and they actually like explain texts much better. And of course their power. So with that said and done, I'm gonna jump right into this. So for this deck profile on blue Titan decks, I used to run 3 Towering Threat Titan. This was the Titan that pretty much your other Titan in the middle position of the center stage gains a +10 boost. Like I said, there's three spaces in the center stage. If this is anywhere in the bottom facing towards the middle, which is only 2 areas, so regardless, it's gonna put the person in the front. If if there's a character in the middle in front of her, this gives that a boost. It has an act, which is on the side. I would bring it down a little bit. It has a pay 2, and I forgot what this term is called, but you pretty much switch it to the side. You get to search your deck for a Titan card, a Titan character, and add it to your hand. So it's a good searcher when you build up stocks, and it pretty much provides an extra boost to the middle character. Next up, one of the things that I like about this is that unlike all the others, this deck carries a specific theme where it actually works out pretty well. These are all 12 copies of the same card, just different artwork. These are Predation, I hope I'm saying it right, Predation Titans. One thing about these Titans is that they have no limit to how many you can play on board. While most characters, you can only have 1 at a time on board unless you retire it, like send it to the waiting room, which is graveyard. You can have as many of these on board as once. Just also got to make sure you remember there's 3 spaces, so you gotta plan that out. You can have as many copies of this on the board, and for each other cards in the center stage that is named Predation Titan, they power themselves up by 2Ks. So they get really strong if you have 3 of them on board, each of them, which is ridiculous. These are all the level 0 drops. Now I'm going to move to the level 1s. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit more interesting, as I explain. The way it works as you go up levels, at the beginning with level 0s, it doesn't matter as to what characters you play. However, when you reach 7 cards in your clock, one of those go into your level space. Whatever you have in your level space or clock zone, after you level up, those are anything that are level 1 or higher. Unless you have to, you can only play them if you have those colors on board. But since all of this is blue, does not matter. For this one, this also carries the same regulation. You can have as many copies of these cards on board at a time. This one is Invasion Titan. This one also gives himself plus 2k for each if all of your characters are Titans. So that's actually pretty good. So this, it doesn't matter as long as all your other characters are Titans. They give themselves a plus 20. One thing about this is that I know there is a format in which you can play mixed, but nobody plays that because everything will conflict with each other. I like the standard format where you can just go through a set, stick with it, and it works so great. Also, next up is Cruel Smile Titan. This is a level 1 with an extra cost of 1. So if I won't be able to play this when I hit level 1 unless I also have a card in my stock. The continuous card is, this card cannot side attack, there are many ways of attacking. In terms of if they have a character on board, you can like side attack. You're like not directly attacking them. And it has an encore. This is basically a phase where it happens after you attack. Put the top card of my deck into my clock. When this card is in the waiting room, is put into the waiting room from the stage, I can pay the cost. If I do, I can bring it back in the previous stage position, but this way. So it kind of sort of revives himself. Those are all level 1s. Next up for level 2s, High Intellect Female Titan. This is more like an assist character. Level 2 for cost 1. Has a continuous. All other Titans get plus 10k power. So this is giving every Titans plus 10k power. Has an auto for 3 stocks. Put 2 cards from your hand into the waiting room. If a climax card is placed in your climax area, you may pay the cost. If you do, deal 5 damage to your opponent. Although this can be cancelled, but doing 5 damage to them is pretty broken. And next up, let me move these aside because this is also what I have the deck focused on. I'm gonna lay them out like this because this is technically how their abilities do work. We have our Threat to Humanity Colossal Titan and Broken Wall Colossal Titan. For the Threat to Humanity, both of them have the same continuous effect. If you do not have Enormous Structure Colossal Titan, these cards cannot attack. Also, they also share the same abilities in terms of giving themselves power boost. However, for this one, this has to be in the left side of the center stage. If he gives all the other Colossal Titans a plus 10k. This one does the same thing if he's on the right side, going left. For this one, for the auto, put 1 card from your hand into the waiting room. When this card attacks, if a card name and in A50 is in my climax area, I may pay the cost. If I do, all of my Titan characters gain a plus 35k for the turn. That until the end of turn. That is stupid. For this one, if the same climax card is in the climax area, I draw a card. They both, and then their last autos is when another of my enormous structure Colossal Titan is put into the waiting room from the stage, these goes into the waiting room as well. So if anything, if the Colossal Titan in the middle leaves, these guys leave as well, if it's placed into the waiting room. And of course, the reason why these are here is because we play this bad boy. It's a level 3 for a cost of 2. However, if you have both of these on board, he goes down by 1 level. So he comes out a turn earlier. He has a continuous effect during your opponent's turn. If this card is in the center of the stage, and it's not this way, because this is pretty much when you battle a character and you beat them, they go this way. If he's still on the board during my opponent's turn and he's not in that position, all other Threat to Humanity and Broken Wall gain the following abilities. They cannot be stunned. So in other words, as long as he's on board, you can't beat them. So basically this puts an impenetrable wall. Oh, and also he has an auto where if you put put a card name and the name 50 from your climax area into your waiting area. At the beginning of your encore step, which is after the battle, you may pay the cost. If you do, return the top card of your clock back to your hand, and this card gains plus 30k until the end of your opponent's turn. So basically, on top of that, these being immortal, he lets you clock yourself down 1. So you kind of heal yourself, so you don't have to like kill yourself, lose that quick. There is a lot of ways to trigger these cards to get off the board. Nowadays, with the new sets that are already released, many cards that can get rid of cards out of the board. It's bad, but if you guys are playing casual, it's perfect. But that's all the character cards that I play. Next up, I run 4 Forest of Giant Trees. This is a level 1 card that lets me search for a card, any Titan character, and add it to my hand, and this card goes to the clock. So it's like a free charge, in other words. Last but not least, I run a total of 8 climax cards, because you're only allowed to run 8 climax. Reason why you're only allowed to run 8 climaxes is because when you take damage and you take the top cards of your deck equal to the amount of damage goes into the clock zone. If within those damage you happen to hit a climax, it cancels the attack completely. It's really ridiculous. That's why they only limit it to 8 climaxes. However, these climaxes do extra upon playing them. Like I said before, the way you do damage is these things trigger on the corner, but some of these symbols that they have extra abilities. So the continuous effect, if I play it regularly as a climax, all my characters will gain plus 1k power and plus 1 soul. The soul is basically the damage you're dealing the opponent, which is this right here. This, if I trigger it at an attack, I do an extra soul damage, and this little symbol here, which lets me retrieve a climax in my waiting area back to hand. For this one, doesn't do any extra damage. This does the same thing for a continuous effect, plus 1k damage and 1 soul. But this doesn't do any extra damage if it's triggered, but if you trigger it, it lets you draw a card. So that was basically it for the deck profile. I'm sorry it took a little while, but also a small little education on it. Also trying to refresh myself on how the game is played. Not really going crazy on it as of yet. Currently, I'm going to try to take the time and rebuild Titans, but with the Volume 2 cards. Maybe Persona 5. I do look forward to making Card Captor Sakura with green-yellow. But what I'm really looking forward to around the time of June is basically Batman Ninja, which is pretty exciting how they actually got the rights to bring them into the card game, and it's going to be awesome. And come on, it's Batman. Who does not like Batman? So, but again, one thing to note in advance: do not expect a lot of deck profiles out of Weiss Schwarz, because it depends on timing itself. So I just figured I'd give you guys something new, something to look at. Don't mind me if I was a little bit rusty. It's been a while. The last time I was in it, I think it was Project Diva, I believe, or I really completely. That's how long it's been. But so please don't mind me if I'm rusty in terms of explanation. Hopefully, by the time I bring you the next deck profile, it's much better, down packed. We all know what it is, what everything does. We have a knowledge of this, and that's it. Stay tuned. Something else outside of Dragon Ball, I will be trying to bring back maybe a Yu-Gi deck profile. It's just going to be an update and a super small history of how I was involved into this. But nonetheless, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for taking the time to see something different and new. This is Migz of the Decksmiths signing out. Peace out, guys.